Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 97 of Journey into Legends. Today we'll be reading The Final Prophecy by Greg Keyes. The Final Prophecy was released in 2003, and it is the 18th and penultimate book in the New Jedi Order series. I honestly don't know what to expect from this book. I've heard some really good things about it, but I have no idea what it's about, which makes me excited. Anyways, without further ado, let's read and review. So, The Final Prophecy consists of two major plotlines, one a bit weaker than the other. Let's start with the weaker plotline, which follows Wedge, Jaina, and the rest of Galactic Alliance Command as they begin to make a push to recapture some of their lost planets in the core. The book begins with a feint attack at Duro meant to draw Vong forces away from the Fondor shipyards, and although the attack at Fondor is successful, the shipyards were in rough shape, which prompts an attack at another shipyard, this time at Bilbringi. And so the Galactic Alliance launches a three-pronged assault at Bilbringi, with Wedge commanding a fleet meant to be trapped by Vong interdictors and surrounded by the Vong fleet. Then Admirals Palian and Crefei would jump in at Wedge's mark and surround the Vong fleet. Except there's a bit of a hitch in that plan when Wedge can't seem to get through to the other fleets as the HoloNet is suddenly taken down. And that's because of a new Dovin Basal weapon developed by the Vong that targets the HoloNet relays. And so without reinforcements, Wedge is essentially trapped by a far superior Vong fleet at Bilbringi. The Galactic Alliance spends the rest of the book trying to scramble to salvage the battle, with Han and Leia being sent as couriers to try and notify the other fleets of what's going on, and Wedge is just trying to bide his time. Eventually, with help from Jaina, who, long story short, kind of commandeers a Golan 2 defense platform, the Galactic Alliance barely manages to escape the system. Anyways, speaking of Jaina, she has a very minor subplot of her own within this larger battle. She's sent to investigate an old Golan 2 defense platform left over at Bilbringi from Thrawn's assault, and so she boards the Golan 2 and is basically held captive by pirates. She ends up using a mind trick on the head pirate to change the coordinates he's inputting, and she jumps them right into the main battle and helps turn the tide. This subplot was a lot of fun, mainly because it didn't overstay its welcome. This could very easily have been very drawn out and unnecessary, but it wasn't. It was very short and sweet, and it connected back to the main battle, and then it was over, and I really liked that. As for the Bilbringi plotline as a whole, I really enjoyed the strategies involved, and of course it's always great to see Wedge, but this was just your average Star Wars naval battle, so it was nothing too special. And now we move on to the far superior plotline, in my opinion, one of the best plotlines in the entire series. We've got what is basically a family road trip to Zanamasiko, except instead it's not a family, it's a really interesting group of characters, consisting of Corran Horn, Tahiri Vela, Nomenor disguised as Yusha, Nen Yim, and Harar. I'm half convinced that Greg Keyes just threw together the characters that he thought would fit the least together, and if that's the case, it was genius. This whole plotline in a nutshell is just 5 characters flying to Zanamasiko. They all have different reasons for being there, they all have different intentions with the planet, they all have conflicting religious beliefs and conflicting allegiances, and all of that makes for such an incredible dynamic, with some great discussions between Corran and Harar, Nen Yim and Tahiri regarding religion and different ideologies. And of course we've got Nomenor acting like a complete snake as always. He kills Nen Yim, he seemingly kills Harar, and he tries to kill Sikot, all to redeem himself in the eyes of Shimra. And so the book ends with Nomenor on his way back to Shimra, either to be executed or redeemed, and with all of our heroes trapped on Zanamasiko, as Nomenor's sabotage causes it to jump blindly into hyperspace. Anyways, I'm really excited to see what happens next in the Unifying Force, specifically with Zanamasiko. Nen Yim made some groundbreaking discovery about the planet, but before she could reveal anything, she was, of course, killed by Nomenor, so that was a really great cliffhanger. So overall, this was an incredibly fun book, and one of my absolute favorites of the whole series. The Zanoma Sakat plotline was just incredible. The characters were so entertaining together, and the mysteries of the planet are getting much more interesting. And of course, even though the Bilberini plotline was a bit weaker, it was still very entertaining and definitely on the better end of space battle subplots we've gotten. Alright, next we have Star Wars Tales issue 22, which has 3 stories, starting with Honor Bound, in which a clone commando recounts the details of a mission where he helped rescue a weapons manufacturer that they then learn was in league with the Separatists. Overall, this was a decent story. It's cool to see clone commandos in action, and the art was pretty good in this one. Next, we have Nomad Chapter 2, which continues the story of Darka Nil as he meets a young woman named Jaren and her brother Ament and saves them from a speeder gang. Anyways, he ends up learning that the brother Ament is a murderer, which is why the bikers, who were actually local police, were hunting him. Anyways, this was definitely weaker than the first part and felt like an unnecessary tangent that didn't really contribute to the overall story. Our last story is Marooned, which takes place over a year after the Battle of Endor and follows an Imperial scout trooper and a rebel commando who were left behind on Endor. They decide to work together to try and escape the planet, but after learning about the fall of the Empire, the scout trooper decides to stay behind when the rebel leaves. This was a pretty fun story. It's cool to see an Imperial and a rebel surviving together on Endor. I just wish this was a more serious story rather than a bit comedic like it was. Anyways, this was another pretty good issue of Tales. All of them were canonical stories, so that definitely helps. Let's hope the last 2 issues can continue this trend. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video where we will at last be finishing the New Jedi Order series with the Unifying Force by James Luceno. See ya.